You cannot make Pilates give you glutes. Hello and welcome to another vlog on YouTube and podcast on Spotify by the Fit Minds podcast. Coach Mariah Jean here. Yes, I'm back in the flesh. Finally doing a video. I don't feel like death. I've been sleeping. Decided to put on some makeup today as well. So we're feeling, I'm going to say spicy today because the topic of today's podcast, I'm getting really controversial lately, and it's on purpose because I'm kind of sick of pussyfooting around stuff, and I really just want to get to the nitty-gritty heart of all of the bullshit and calling it out. Today's topic is Pilates. Those Pilates classes that are doing your booty no good. Now, before you jump down my throat, I get this all the time. I do Pilates, I just enjoy it. That's fine. Oh gee, if you enjoy your Pilates, I am not here to bark up your tree if you like Pilates. I actually used to, when I was much younger and when I was struggling with my eating disorder, would go to Pilates, Tai Chi kind of style classes like Les Mills. I really liked them because it felt like I could do an exercise session without working too hard. But that's the whole point, is that Pilates, despite people saying, oh, you've got to come and do one, it's really hard, my core, it's burning afterwards, is going to be mostly core work. I've done them before, don't stress. I've sat in on Pilates classes, I've participated in them. Mostly core work, some, resistance, body weight resistance, of course, legs, holds, all sorts of things. There's going to be an ability to improve some facets of your movement, right? And I actually think Pilates should be praised before I get into why Pilates is not going to grow your glutes. That's the thick of the podcast. I think Pilates should be praised for what it does for people, for their mobility, for stability, for things like balance, for, being able to get in and out of movements, improving movement patterns, getting your arms over your head or your shoulders over your head, or being a bit more mobile in a squat position. And I do think that, as I said in previous podcasts, Pilates may be a good place to start for a very fresh beginner who is struggling to even squat their own body weight, right? Fair call. You go into a gym, you got a bit of work to do. I can understand that. In the case of somebody who, for example, hasn't been following a structured program, maybe they have been going to the gym, maybe they've been running, I don't know, maybe you've just had some time off exercise, maybe you were previously training in the gym, and maybe you're thinking to yourself, Pilates might be a good change for me. And you've got this idea in your head that Pilates is going to build or sculpt muscle, that you're going to come out of Pilates like this Greek goddess. And the truth of the matter is, it's probably not going to happen. In fact, I could almost put my money on it that the ideal body or physique that you're looking for, maybe, will not be achieved, and I can guarantee it won't, by if your ideal physique is soft and lean but not super toned and defined, and you don't want a bigger bum, and you're happy with a slender, slim physique with no lines, it's kind of like what I would call a soft bikini body, then maybe Pilates and running might work for you. But if you want a bum, if you want glutes, I cannot repeat this enough. This is kind of like you're dating a guy and you want him to be somebody who's not. You cannot make Pilates give you glutes. You cannot, work harder in your Pilates sessions. You cannot wish your glutes to appear out of nowhere, your booty just to grow overnight, or even in 6 months, or even in a year of doing just Pilates sessions. And I challenge you to look around the room in your Pilates classes. If you are going every day or every couple of days, if it's the only thing you're doing, have a conversation with some of the people that are doing Pilates with you. Let's say, for example, there is somebody's physique there that you're admiring, and you say, I really love her shape. She's got great glutes, she's got definition in the right places, But let's say she's got a booty. She's got a nice, you can tell it's a firm, round butt and a small waist. I can put money on it that that woman is not only doing Pilates. And if she is, she's adding weights, dumbbells, all sorts of stuff to her Pilates classes to add resistance. Smacking my mic here, getting really passionate. So we're adding resistance, right? Resistance can come in lots of different forms. Don't get me wrong. Resistance training, when people refer to weights training, it's resistance training. It's the same thing, it's just two different ways of saying it, right? Resistance is literally in the name, against the muscle tissue that is going to put the muscle under strain. Now, we cannot expect significant resistance from a body weight exercise. Why? Because bending down to pick up your groceries, reaching up into a cupboard, okay? Think about it, opening the fridge, laying on the ground, playing with your kids. This can sometimes simulate or emulate the same or similar movement patterns to Pilates. So what makes you think that this is any different to just normal daily movement? And that's the whole point. Oftentimes, yes, you can get into some strange, quirky positions, but oftentimes the resistance that you're placing on your body in Pilates sessions, even if it is long duration, even if it's holds, even if it's isometric, it's not going to give you any sort of, how would I put it, additional resistance than what your body is capable of doing in the everyday world. However, with things like core work, concentrated isometric core work, where you're not crunching in, where it's, you might be doing planks, you might be doing hollow body holds. I know they're quite common in Pilates. You might be doing leg lifts, you might be doing dead bugs, all sorts of stuff. This will force your abdominals into a position, right, where they are under constant tension, which probably will not be happening in your everyday life. So that's why I say that probably the largest benefit to Pilates is going to be your core strength, absolutely, and abdominal work that you do in Pilates, probably pretty good for postpartum women in those early days, for sure. But what it's not going to do, which the gym can also do, the gym, you could literally do those exercises in the gym after your workout or before your workout. You could be doing core isometric exercises on the ground. You can add some weights to it as well if you want to make it harder, whatever it might be. But you can not only do them by yourself in the gym, you don't have to pay $60 a week or $80 a week for a Pilates membership or $20 or $10 a class. You can actually have these programmed for you. Go to the gym, do those either before or after your workout, right? The core work, the core component might take 10 minutes or so. Still reap the benefits of that, but then step into the weight section, I know, heaven forbid, and actually put some resistance on your body, all right? So it's kind of like you're trying to build a roof and you're saying, I really want this really sturdy roof, but you're coming to it with materials like cellophane. Okay, so the stimuli that you're achieving from Pilates is not enough to grow your glutes. It's not enough. It's not even enough to maintain your glutes. If you were previously doing gym work, hip thrusts, squats, and you've now replaced that with Pilates, or you've reduced the amount of work you're doing in the gym, or you've reduced the weights you're doing in the gym, and now you're doing Pilates instead, guess what's going to happen to your butt? Slowly but surely over time, especially if you're focusing on a fat loss goal, your ass is going to disappear. And I challenge you, next time you go into a Pilates class or you see someone or know someone doing Pilates, to look around the room for anyone who has a nice butt and then have a conversation with them and say, hey, do you do something other than Pilates? Like, you have great glutes, because I can guarantee they either add weights to the Pilates sessions or they're in the gym isolating glutes with, yes, you guessed it, weights. We need to remove the stigma attached to weights training. And time again, I've seen this with coaches in the industry where, funnily enough, they're actually putting out a positive message. They're actually trying to tell you, like, what do you want? What do you want for your physique? Most women, it's like, I want a big butt, or I want a nice pair of glutes, or I want to see more definition in my arms or legs or whatever it might be. And time again, the response from most coaches is you need to engage in a resistance or gym program, whatever, weights training program that applies enough resistance to that muscle tissue to put it under strain. And the reason why is because when we put muscle tissue under strain, so let's say these are muscle fibers. I don't want to get too technical with you guys, but when we put muscle tissue under strain, under weight, whether it's a pull or a push movement, whatever it is, what happens is those little fibers, they're like long stringy fibers. Google type 2 muscle fibers, right? These are the ones we want to build because they're nice and thick and juicy and they pop from the skin. Type 1, less so, you build them when you're running. They are long and lean and skinny, but the problem is they don't build volume, so they're really bad for bums. Okay, long, lean, skinny equals skinny bum. Okay, so you can do hybrid. You can do type 1 and 2, and then you can kind of blend it together. I'll talk about that in a second. But type 2 muscle fibers will create enough volume. No, you will not end up with Hulk arms. Okay, not possible. But you will end up building these nice thick filaments, right? But the only way to do that is that when you're putting these muscle fibers, they twist and they turn. Google it, muscle fibers, type 2. They twist and they turn. And when you put them under strain, they tear. Okay, they snap and they tear. Don't worry, nothing bad is happening when you tear muscle tissue. Not, at least not, under an injury or under strain where it's to a point where it tears in half or, tears too far. But we have these little micro tears that occur. Okay, now these little micro tears are as a result of the stimulus of resistance against the muscle tissue, which is going to have to be from anything significant, would be from holding dumbbells. Okay, dumbbells, yes, and then performing a movement with the extra weight in our hands because it adds extra to our body weight. Oh my God, mind blown, because our body weight is not enough to put that extra resistance on, right? So extra weight added to our body weight equals more resistance for the muscle tissue, which equals more micro tears. Now you're with me? Cool. Okay. And then to repair that muscle tissue, we must then eat, oh my God, adequate protein because muscle tissue is made of protein. So then we bring the protein in. We need to eat adequate carbs to fuel the energy that we require for that exercise to build up strength. And the stronger we get, the more muscle we build. Voila, booty. Glutes. Your glutes don't just magically sculpt. It's not like someone is in your Pilates class with a carving knife and just, running this knife over your glutes going, yes. And when you perform these exact exercises, I'm going to give you a nice sculpted pair of glutes. The internet is a very dangerous place. And unfortunately, there's lots of misinformation out there. Influencers out there doing all sorts of ridiculous workouts with booty bands, with Pilates, with bodyweight workouts, trying to get your attention, trying to basically tell you what you want to hear, which is I can achieve this physique in my garage with next to no weights and next to no resistance. And that is a lie, okay? Majority of the time, when you see a physique that has a decent amount of muscle tissue, especially in legs, they're going to have to be engaging in things like resistance training in the gym. Leg presses, squats, hip thrusts, you name it. Hamstring curls for the hamstrings, quad extensions, lunges, Bulgarian split squats, all the shit that you keep avoiding. And I think part of the problem is that women are avoiding hard work. They are going into these Pilates classes going, this feels really nice and breezy and relaxing, and hoping and wishing and praying that they're just going to have glutes pop up out of nowhere. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. You'll be waiting months and years for those results. And then you beat yourself up because, oh, I just don't have glutes. Take it from me, someone who was 45 kilos. I was running 10 kilometers a day. I was a runner. I was doing gym sessions, but unfortunately I wasn't eating enough and I was overtraining. So my body was eating its own muscle tissue. And I had a pancake bum. I had no butt. Now look at my bum. It's come such a long way. It's like literally quadrupled in size. Why? I eat more food, right? I don't do Pilates. No, I don't do it. I mean, I might go to a session if someone invites me for fun, for shits and giggles on a rest day, but it might be great for my core, but I'm not going to think of it as being something that is beneficial for my glutes or my arms or my back or my anything, because I know the benefit of adding resistance in the gym to my body weight, right? Since then, since the time of the pancake bum, I don't run anymore, right? if I do any sort of stretching and mobility work, it's before my session, and my core work before or after my session. It is a part of my session. It is. But it's not the core part of my session. It's not the central part. The central part of my session, if I want to keep muscle, grow muscle and keep muscle, is going to be weights training. And no matter how many times you don't want to hear that and you scour the internet for some magical cure to your pancake bum, it's going to be the same answer every time. And there's a reason why coaches are saying this over and over and over again. If you want good results with glute growth, quad growth, shape, creating an X-frame, making your waist look smaller by getting your back to grow bigger and getting your glutes to grow bigger, it's about proportions and illusions, right? Is that if you want to create and sculpt this physique, you need to go to the gym and pick up weights, or start to get more weights at home, dumbbells, barbells, you name it. Diversify your equipment away from booty bands. Challenge yourself. Stop being so afraid to step up to that next level, and stop associating weights with a masculine identity. Because at the end of the day, the difference between your Pilates bodyweight classes and the gym is your perception of it and the way that it's advertised to you. Pilates is advertised to you as this nice, expensive, bougie experience with 30 other women in the room who are all wearing the same branded activewear, right? The gym is a place where you have to go and keep yourself accountable. You have to go and challenge yourself. You have to tell yourself, I could probably lift heavier than that. You have to mentally get past the idea that there's also a dude, right, doing a similar exercise a couple of meters away. But he is a dude. He's not a girl. So muscle is going to grow differently on different frames. He doesn't have hips like we do. He doesn't have a waist that tapers in like we do. And sometimes men do have that. But the way that their muscle develops on them is very different to us. So the whole concept of sculpting and toning and seeing definition is literally the process of tearing and building muscle, whether it be a small amount at maintenance calories or in a surplus. You will do this very ever so slightly in a deficit, but only in the start of your journey, because your body needs to build muscle tissue to support the stimuli. But there will be a point where your dieting as well will be working against you in this facet. So it's not just the Pilates, but I've talked about this in the caption. When you pair Pilates and dieting together, equals pancake bum. Pilates, dieting, running, pancake bum, like in that order, right? And you will slowly but surely see it disappear. Your tights will start fitting differently. You won't fill out your jeans. You will look in the mirror and be like, what the fuck has happened? It's just skin, right? And like, that's where I got. I've been there. And it was mostly because I was running too much and not eating enough, right? Looking back now, I realized that the over-exercise, the under-eating, the playing it safe and not, lifting heavy in the gym, although I was lifting fairly heavy, but not allowing my body to properly recover and build muscle tissue at maintenance or a slight surplus, saw that I was always in this kind of like soft, skinny look at 45 kilos. Now I'm at 65 to 67, depending on what time of the month it is. And I've got glutes, I've got quads, I'm still a size 8, right? And I was a size 6 when I was anorexic. It's one clothing size difference and 20 to 22 kilos heavier. So a lot of it too is possibly because people are thinking, well, when I do Pilates, when I run, I weigh less, right? Oh, I lose all this weight and I weigh less. And they're not actually looking in the mirror and going, am I happy with what I visibly see? Like if I look in the mirror and I look at, I've got abdominal definition, I've got lines in my legs, I've got glutes, I've got a small waist, I've got these beautiful shoulder caps, broad back, like I feel athletic, right? I'm happy with what I see. And the reason why 15 months after having a baby, I'm happy with what I see is because I stopped thinking about what's my body weight. Like, yeah, I've lost 20 kilos since having a baby, but what's my body weight? And how do I lose as much weight as possible? Because that's the way that I used to think. I used to think, how do I lose as much weight as possible? And oftentimes that's where we would be led in that direction of doing tons of cardio and Pilates classes and all of these things that we think are going to give us the result we want. And it actually gives us something that we didn't want in the first place, but an arbitrary number is what we chase. So we end up going, oh, I'm losing weight, it's so exciting. Oh, but hold on, why do I look so soft still? And why can I see definition in my arms? And, why are my glutes really flat? Like, why is my bum really flat? Why do I not look the way that I want to look? And the issue is that as I said, we've had such a focus on weight, data, numbers versus visually seeing change. The hard part of it too is that with things like weights training, like it's not going to be an overnight process. You might go to the gym for a week or two and be like, I see minimal difference. And that is the concept of muscle building, and it takes time. You will also need to go through, even though some people boast that you can be at maintenance calories and you can recomp, you can, but it's a much slower and less effective process. So you will, if you want to get quick results, have to go through. If, for example, your main focus at the moment is fat loss and you're like, you know what, I've got a lot of body fat to lose, like I'm talking like 10, 20, 30, whatever it might be, kilos. Well, then you go through that fat loss phase first. You get yourself to a point where you can see maybe a bit of muscle definition and you go, okay, now that I'm here, maybe I don't have as much muscle in my glutes as I thought I did. Maybe, my legs could do with a bit more muscle. I wouldn't mind a bit more through here. Maybe my back isn't as broad as I would like. Maybe I want my waist to look smaller. Maybe my shoulders, I don't have as much definition through there. Maybe I want to work on those. And it's like, if you've done that cut and you've got down to a point where, okay, like I did, got so lean, but then I was like, oh, I just look like a stick, right? Oh shit, I don't have that much muscle. I have less muscle than I thought I had. If you get to that point and you've dieted, you can't just keep dieting and expect your glutes or muscle to grow with nothing to grow with, right? So to grow muscle tissue, significant muscle tissue, we need to be at least at maintenance or a small surplus. Past that newbie gains where you can sometimes do it while dieting, yeah, a little bit, but like it's a couple kilos at the most, right, of muscle tissue. Then past that point, maintenance or a slight surplus. And I say slight surplus because you don't have to shovel food down your throat and go through a massive bodybuilding bulk to get some muscle gain and growth in things like your glutes, your legs, to then be able to notice it, to come back later on and do a cut and go, okay, I can see that now, right? Because it's not like you're going to those extremes unless you're doing a bodybuilding show, in which case maybe it has to be a longer duration. But you could do, an 8 to 12 week cut, right? Followed by a bit of a diet break, a maintenance phase, assess where you're at, see if you want to, go back to cutting or whether or not maybe you want to go into a surplus and grow a little bit. And then you could spend, 6 weeks at maintenance. I don't suggest doing too much longer at maintenance. There are, as I said, coaches on the internet that preach maintenance periods for muscle growth and sculpting and toning, and it drives me insane because it doesn't do anything. It does that very ineffectively. And yes, you can maintain all year round and maybe increase your strength a little bit. But I would only suggest that for someone like myself or someone who has been training for years and is pretty happy with where their muscle mass is. Like they don't actually really want to grow much more. It's like in that case, yeah, maintenance may be the right spot for you. But if you're unhappy with the muscle tissue and definition that you see, even when you diet, even when you're in a deficit, you're deep in a deficit, you've lost weight, and you're like, I still don't see much. Probably don't have that much muscle tissue because your Pilates classes haven't been helping you build it. All right? Pilates does not build a significant amount of muscle, and you would be surprised how much muscle you actually need in a limb, or even in your back or your glutes, how much muscle you need to be able to see protrusion. Muscle is like, if you imagine meat, right, that you get from a butcher, that's muscle tissue, the red stuff, right? If you want that to protrude and to see lines, that's muscle tissue being close to the surface of the skin, right? And body fat can cover that, right? So if we have a thick layer of body fat, that's also where cellulite comes in. And the thicker the body fat, right, the body fat then kind of curdles and you end up with this like cellulite look. So to fix that problem, right, 2 different processes, right? Body fat cut, right? So then the muscle's there. Oh no, the muscle's not, it's not protruding as much as I thought it was, or it's not as big as I thought it was because the fat was hiding it. So then you go through that muscle growth phase afterwards where it's like, okay, now I need to grow muscle tissue outwards, right? So fat loss, muscle growth. Okay, see that? Doing like a demonstration here. So hopefully that makes sense. I wanted to touch on the nutrition side of things because I really know that despite me harping on about, hating on Pilates, this isn't a podcast just to talk about Pilates being shit. It's not necessarily shit. It's not something I would suggest as a long duration form of major exercise. And if you still say to me, right, I get it, I know I need to train in the gym, it's boring, I don't enjoy it, whatever. I get it. No, I do understand. Maybe you could look at a hybrid combination. Okay, there are some women out there who find their ideal physiques and they do a combination, but they do a combination. They engage in weights and resistance training, maybe at least a minimum of 3 days a week. All right, so whether it's upper, lower, and maybe a full body session. Okay, and then maybe they fill the 2 remaining sessions with a Pilates and a HIIT session, or a Pilates and a run, because maybe they enjoy that. Or maybe it's 3 resistance sessions and 2 Pilates sessions. Would I suggest doing 3 resistance sessions, 2 Pilates, and 1 running? No. Because if the main goal that you have is sculpting, toning, seeing muscle tissue, like, you know, most women, if you are unhappy with the toning and definition that you're seeing, then you likely don't have that much muscle to begin with to see. So you need to work on that. And the way to work on that is to make that majority of your training, which is the added resistance, the progressive overload. The science of progressive overload is in the name. You progressively overload your muscle tissue with reps, weights, and sets. And each week it increases by a certain amount, whether it's a couple of reps in that exercise, whether it's by weight, whether it's, I wouldn't suggest always increasing sets because there's a limit to that and that can be exhausting and you can then put less effort into your sets. So I think 3 or 4 is perfectly fine of each exercise. Sometimes I drop back to 2 because I'm lifting so heavy now, it's so fatiguing. But progressive overload, you know, is literally the scientific process involved with hypertrophy training. And there is no way of avoiding it, you know, of this ideal physique that you're looking for. I would make majority of your sessions. So if it's 5 sessions, make 3 of them weights training. If it's 6, try to make 4 of them weights training, maybe 1 Pilates and 1 run. But in no circumstances would I ever recommend doing 50% Pilates and running and 50% weights training. Because at the end of the day, you might, if you've already got muscle tissue, you probably will maintain it because the 3 sessions will do that. But let's say you're doing 3 sessions a week in total of everything, or it's 4 sessions, right? And you're only doing 1 weights training session. Or you're doing 2 weights training sessions, a Pilates session, and a run. That maybe might maintain muscle tissue, but I don't see the chances of it growing significant muscle tissue. You'll have to make sure that majority of the stimuli, or if it is 50%, if you've got a big training program, which you don't need, that you're able to maintain the muscle tissue. So currently, if you're tossing up about your program, if you're like, you know what, I've been going to Pilates sessions, I've been running, I've been doing whatever, I've been doing a hybrid combination, or I'm doing more Pilates than I am resistance sessions, and I really enjoy it, but I'm not getting the results that I want to get. I'm not even asking you to coach with me or us or even, you know, sign up for our 8-week challenge or do our course. I'm not asking you to do those things, right? I'm not expecting that of you. What I'm asking you to do is have the conversation with me. Talk to me about it. Like, inbox me. I'm always available. Well, to a certain extent, because obviously lots of clients. But message me and talk about it and say, hey, Mariah, listen to your podcast. At the moment, I'm doing this many Pilates sessions, this many resistance sessions. What do you think? You know, is that enough? Should I do more of this? This is what I want to achieve. What do you suggest? And I will give you my honest opinion based on 10 years of experience in the industry and, you know, prepping bikini bodies into stage, winning physiques, prepping myself into a bodybuilding show. And the only difference between prepping people and myself into a bodybuilding show and getting the ideal physique that you want is the show, right? And like getting that lean. At the end of the day, it's the same science, it's the same applications, you're just not a bodybuilder, which means that you probably don't have to go as hard as what a bodybuilder would. But if you want a similar body to a bikini body, if you want glutes, if you want shape, if you like the wellness look, or maybe a toned down version of that, you know, not necessarily as extreme, if you just want to see more definition, trust me when I say that bodybuilding coaches are probably the best place to look. We know our shit, we know about hypertrophy, we know about progressive overload, we know how to show the best part of somebody's physique and how to get more definition. And for those who are Pilates instructors out there doing Pilates classes, I don't hate you. I'm not out for your throat. I do think though that it's doing someone disservice telling them to come to Pilates classes every week if they want to see more glute definition, sculpt their glutes, grow their glutes, do anything really with their glutes. I don't think it's the right place to be. But that's my professional and my personal opinion, and it's also from personal experience and experience with my clients as well. Anyway, that is about it for me. don't think I've got anything else to add into that podcast. Please send this to somebody that you know who is a Pilates fanatic but keeps whinging about the fact that they can't see their abs yet, or that they've lost their bum, or that they don't understand why they don't have the shape, or maybe, you know, they're worried about the fact that they've still got muffin tops. Oftentimes, the exercise stimuli actually has a lot to do with your results, and it's probably the elephant in the room that you've been avoiding. Thanks a lot. Looking forward to doing another podcast for you soon. Bye-bye.